I never thought I'd tell this story out loud, but sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that need to be spoken. My life didn't fall apart all at once. It unraveled quietly, thread by thread, and I didn't even notice until I was standing in the middle of the wreckage, wondering how I got there. The strange thing is, the moment that started to change everything for me didn't come from success, or money, or anything I'd earned. It came from a stranger, a man whose name I never learned, but whose words still echo in my mind every single day. I was always in a rush. That was my identity. The guy who never stopped moving. If you asked anyone who knew me, they'd tell you I was driven, focused, ambitious. But what they wouldn't tell you, because I never let them see it, was that beneath all that drive, I was exhausted, lonely, and scared. Scared of slowing down. Scared of being left behind. Scared that if I stopped pushing for 1 second, the whole world would forget about me. One evening, after another 12-hour day at the office, I caught the last bus home. I remember it vividly because the bus was almost empty. Just me, the driver, and one older man sitting quietly near the back. The city outside the window blurred past in streaks of yellow light. I took my usual spot and pulled out my phone, ready to drown myself in meaningless scrolling until the ride was over. But for some reason, I couldn't keep my eyes off the old man. He wasn't doing anything unusual, just staring out the window with this strange, almost peaceful expression. Something about him pulled me in, and when the bus jolted to a stop at a red light, he turned his head and caught me looking. Instead of frowning or ignoring me, he smiled. "You look like you're carrying the whole world on your shoulders," he said, his voice calm but firm. I let out a nervous laugh. "Yeah, something like that. Work, life, you know how it is." He tilted his head, studying me as though he could see past the suit, past the phone, past the fake composure I carried everywhere. Then he said something I'll never forget. "I used to carry it too, until I realized the world never asked me to. I just picked it up on my own. I didn't know how to respond. Nobody had ever spoken to me like that before, so blunt and yet so kind." He leaned back in his seat and continued, almost like he was telling a story to himself. "I worked for 50 years without a break. Thought I was building something that mattered. Thought my family would thank me for it someday. But when I finally stopped, when the work was done and the house was paid for, I looked around and they were gone. My wife, tired of waiting. My kids, grown and distant. My friends, all moved on. I built a future and lost the present." His words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. I had been doing the same thing. Skipping dinners, forgetting birthdays, trading moments of joy for more hours at the desk. I thought it was noble, that I was sacrificing for the people I loved. But what if I was actually just abandoning them piece by piece, the way this man had? The bus kept rolling, the hum of the engine filling the silence between us. Finally, I asked, "So what do you do now? How do you live with that?" The old man smiled faintly, though his eyes were heavy with something I couldn't quite name. "I tell my story. I remind people like you not to make the same mistake. That's the only gift I have left to give." I wanted to argue, to say that I wasn't like him, that my situation was different. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Deep down, I was terrified that if I kept going the way I was, I'd end up exactly where he had, successful on paper, empty in life. When the bus finally reached my stop, I hesitated. I didn't want to leave. Something in me knew that walking away from that conversation without changing would be the biggest mistake of my life. Before I stepped off, I turned back to him. "Thank you," I said, my voice shaking. I needed to hear that. He gave me a small nod, nothing more. As the doors closed behind me, I stood on the sidewalk and watched the bus disappear into the night, feeling like I had just been handed a warning from my own future. That night, I didn't open my laptop. I didn't check my emails. I sat at the kitchen table with my wife and actually listened to her day. I laughed with my kids until my stomach hurt. And for the first time in years, I felt alive, not because of anything I'd achieved, but because I was simply there, present. Since then, I've been failing sometimes, but trying to hold on to that lesson. Work still matters. Bills still exist. Life doesn't magically stop being hard. But now I know that the moments we think are small, the dinner conversations, the bedtime stories, the quiet walks, those are the treasures we'll wish we had back when the bus finally stops running. And every time I feel myself slipping back into old habits, I hear that old man's voice reminding me, don't trade the present for a future that may never come.